There is a quiet and heavy burden that few are ever willing to name. It is the weight of seeing what others don't, the underlying systems, the unspoken truths, the intricate web of suffering and illusion that holds our world together. It's the feeling of walking through a crowded room, but only you can hear the faint, discordant hum beneath the polite chatter. We are told to seek knowledge, to pursue understanding, as if it were a light switch that, once flipped, would illuminate a path to peace. But no one ever tells you that some truths are not lights at all, but rather heavy anchors that drag you down into a deeper, colder sea. And so we find ourselves here, caught in a profound and isolating paradox. Knowledge, the very thing we are meant to celebrate, has become our most significant burden. It is the cost of living an awake life in a world that often prefers to remain asleep. To carry this weight is to exist in a state of perpetual alienation. You sit at a table with friends and they speak of a politician's latest gaffe, a new consumer product, or the simplicity of a societal narrative. And you nod, you smile, but inside you are seeing a different play entirely. You see the deep systemic injustices that fuel that political circus. You see the environmental and human cost of that cheap product. You see the dangerous oversimplifications that keep the collective mind in a state of comfortable ignorance. It's not that you feel superior. In fact, it's the opposite. You feel alone. You long for the simplicity they seem to possess, the blissful detachment from the world's quiet horrors. This burden is the inevitable price of a clear-eyed perspective. When you see the world as it truly is, you are forced to grieve for what it isn't. You grieve for the lost potential, the forgotten beauty, the quiet suffering that goes unnoticed. This isn't a simple sadness, it's a profound existential grief for the way things are and for the way we as a species often choose to live. It shatters the easy narratives we were all raised on, the idea that good always triumphs, that justice will prevail, that hard work leads to a fair reward. The brutal truth is that justice is often a luxury, and merit a myth. Power, not virtue, is the dominant force, and once you see that, you cannot unsee it. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre explored this with the concept of bad faith, mauvaise foi. It's the act of deceiving ourselves to escape a painful truth, the lie we tell ourselves to avoid the overwhelming burden of our own freedom and responsibility. What happens when you've seen through this bad faith? When you realize the stories, the institutions, and the cherished beliefs are not solid ground, but elaborate sandcastles we built to keep the tide of truth at bay. You are left standing on a shore of pure reality, wind-battered and exposed, watching the rest of humanity play in a world that feels both beautiful and dangerously fragile. This is where the psychological toll becomes immense. The brain is not built to hold the weight of all human suffering. It's not designed to process the implications of climate change while simultaneously worrying about what to have for dinner. It's not meant to reconcile the staggering wealth gap with the fact that you're paying for a luxury you don't need. This constant state of cognitive dissonance, this perpetual awareness wears on the nervous system. The world, in its raw, unfiltered state, begins to feel like a constant threat. And you live with the quiet anxiety that comes from knowing too much and feeling too little power to change it. You feel complicit, paralyzed, and isolated all at once. And so the greatest temptation becomes cynicism. The mind, desperate for relief, will try to numb the pain by concluding that the world is inherently broken, that people are hopeless, and that any effort to change things is ultimately futile. Cynicism is the mind's last-ditch effort to make peace with the burden. It's a way of saying, I see everything, and since I can't fix it, I will detach from it. But this is a hollow victory. Cynicism might offer a temporary escape from the pain of caring, but it poisons the very wellspring of empathy and purpose. It takes a truth seeker and turns them into a solitary, bitter observer. But there is a different path. The burden of knowing too much is not a curse to be endured, but a profound and rare gift to be integrated. The key is to transform knowledge from a source of anxiety into a source of deliberate and compassionate action. This isn't about shouldering the weight of the entire world. That is impossible and a form of ego in itself. It is about taking the piece of the world you are most sensitive to, the injustice that cuts you the deepest, and deciding that this is the ground on which you will stand. The Buddhist concept of skillful means, upaya, offers a powerful alternative. It is not a passive resignation to suffering, but an active, creative engagement with reality. It is the deep conviction that to live a meaningful life, you must first accept the world for what it is, not for what you wish it to be. This means using your knowledge not just to see the problem, but to find a compassionate and effective way to respond to it. It means finding strength not in the avoidance of truth, but in the radical act of facing it head on and then deciding what to do with that truth. And so the burden becomes a compass. The unease you feel is no longer a sign that something is wrong with you, but a signal that something is deeply wrong with the world. Your sensitivity becomes your guide. It shows you where your true work lies. It moves you from the passive role of an observer to the active role of a builder, a healer, or a truth teller in your own corner of the world. This is not a journey to be walked alone. The weight of knowing too much can only be lightened when shared with others who feel the same. The quiet, isolating knowledge becomes a bridge to a new kind of community, a community of the awake. These are the people who, like you, have stared into the void and chosen to build something beautiful in its shadow. They're not looking for easy answers or false hope. They're seeking a way to live with integrity, with their eyes wide open and their hearts still beating with compassion. So if you feel this burden, if you feel the ache of seeing more, knowing more, and caring more than the world seems to demand, remember this. You are not broken. You are not a cynic in the making. You are simply one of the few who has chosen to remain awake. And in this choice lies not despair, but a quiet and powerful form of liberation. It is the freedom that comes from no longer needing to pretend. It is the profound sense of purpose that arises when you transform your burden into your work. It is the knowledge that even in a world of illusion, there is still something sacred and enduring about a life lived in truth. This is depth. We don't just see the world, we seek to understand it.